Hey, welcome or welcome back. And on this very breezy but otherwise beautiful spring day, you find me upon my Royal Enfield Super Meteor 650. Haven't been out on this beauty for a while. Been too busy putting some miles on Norman, the classic 350, to get him through his first service, and likewise for the Moto Guzzi V7. I suppose you'd call this my go-to bike for most purposes. I like to think, when I stick my fat face into the garage and wonder what bike I'm going to take, usually the Guzzi and Norman the Classic 350 are mood dependent. If I'm in a nostalgic, can't really be arsed, pootling about mood, I jump on Norman and go for a pootle. And if I'm wanting a little bit more spice in the ride, a bit more flamboyance, a bit more style, a bit more cachet, a bit more panache, hey, I'll take the Moto Guzzi. And when I can't make my mind up, and more generally for non-thematic purposes, I take this, the Super Meteor. And it's probably appropriate now that I've had this bike for 10 months that we have a little talk about generally what I think of the bike over that period of time and what issues there have been, if any. What makes you think there's been any then? What I've done to the bike, and really what it is I like the most about this here bike. Now, first off, most people will tell you this bike is a cruiser, and by certain aspects of the generally accepted definition of a cruiser, yeah, I suppose it's a cruiser. It's got a very slight foot forward riding position, low seat, and it's got that long, languid styling associated with cruisers. But if you're going to jump aboard one of these, don't be thinking it's going to be anything like getting aboard a Harley Davidson or an Indian, because it's, shall we say, cruiser aspirations, such as they are quite modest. Once you get riding this bike, you're not at all thinking, or certainly I'm not at all thinking, wow, I'm on a cruiser, this feels different. It really isn't radically different to any other bike, and that'd be a good thing to my mind. Now you might be able to see here, I've got the old tall screen back on. Now the days are less filthy and mucky and misty and rainy and bloody horrible, and I hope it's not spoiling your view ahead. To be fair, it isn't doing a great deal for me at 6'1". It is keeping some of the wind off the chest area. but of course comes standard with this model of the bike. So let's talk about the Super Meteor range then, and generally where it sits with the Royal Enfield fleet, if you like. Relatively new to the market, this bike, not been around that long. I first sat upon one of these at the NEC Motorcycle Live in 2022, and towards the end of summer last year, because this is a 73 plate, I got this bike. Now the Super Meteor does represent the top of the Royal Enfield range currently, and that is represented in the price, albeit comparatively speaking still a modest price. So there's 3 price points basically for the Super Meteor. There's the Astral basic paint colours, then the Interstellar, which are a bit more trick, and then there are these, the top of the range Celestial models, and these models come as standard with the tall screen and the touring seat with backrest. Now originally, when the Super Meteor Celestial models were marketed, they were certainly, in terms of the promotional material, certainly the early promotional material, and certainly the bike which featured at the NEC in 2022, they came, or they were shown as coming, with not only the screen and the touring seat and backrest, but also hard luggage, engine bars and spotlights. And for some considerable time, that's what I thought A, distinguished the Celestial models from the other 2 models, and B, justified the higher price point, because these come in at £7,300 there or thereabouts in the UK, whereas the other models are sort of 6,500, 6,700. So I thought, oh yeah, not a bad premium to have to pay that for all those extras, but that did not transpire to be the case for whatever reason. And what you got with the Celestial, and as far as I'm aware what you still get as standard with the Celestial, is tall screen, touring seat, backrest, and that'd be about it. So I don't know what happened with the old hard luggage and crash bars and standard spotlights. So when I got this bike, I fitted my own, shall we call it, Celestial upgrades. Oh, I'm going to get dive bombed by this here red kite. Look at that, beautiful. Getting a bit of carrion there. Beautiful birds. Hey, not often you see that. You see that? That red kite actually managed to pick up some remains of a pheasant's carcass, remains of a bit of roadkill. Beautiful birds. I digress. So yeah, I made the Celestial myself. Jivvy crash bars, jivvy pannier frames, jivvy luggage, and a couple of LED spotlights. And Robert is your father's brother, as they say. But I do understand at this very moment that the hard luggage option is now available, no doubt as an extra, I'm sure. So I don't know what the delay was there, but not really important, I suppose. I'm quite happy with these Givvy cases. Jivvy? It's got to be Jivvy, hasn't it? Like Giovanni. Jivvy. G followed by I in Italian, pronounced So, at the risk of tempting Providence, I am happy to report that in those 10 months, this bike has given me no issues whatsoever. None. Other than scuffed knuckles fitting some of the accessories. Most significantly, and I hope you can hear them, this complete, from headers to silencers, tech bike parts, Canon exhaust system. Hey, they sound cracking, and trust me, yes, the silencers are still in. Aye, so no issues whatsoever with the bike. The build quality of these Royal Enfield Super Meteors does represent the apex of what Royal Enfield now offers you, whilst retaining that very, very modest initial capital outlay. So yes, £7,300 for a bike like this. Don't think you can go wrong, and don't, as I did initially, reserve judgment and delay acquiring this bike on the basis that I'm not a cruiser guy, because I'm not a cruiser guy. But let me tell you, after 10 months riding this bike, I don't feel like a cruiser guy. I don't want to be a cruiser guy. That's not at all how the bike feels. It just feels like what it is. A hugely characterful mid-weight 650cc, mid-powered, 47 brake horsepower, well put together, stylish, retro inspired motorcycle, which puts a big grin on my fat chops every time I come out on it. So I'm just coming up to 1,000 miles on this bike now, so not a massive amount of mileage, but more than enough to be able to comment authoritatively upon it. And of course I can only ever do long-term, in-depth, meaningful reviews on bikes that I own, because much as Apple Yards are very, very generous towards me and let me have their demo bikes for a full day rather than just the odd hour, to get a bike on that sort of basis long term, you're not going to get that arrangement from a dealership. You're going to have to get your sweaty mitts on a press bike, a media bike from the main manufacturers, distributors. And much as I've pestered Royal Enfield and others to be able to do that, perhaps understandably, never got anywhere. So it's only the bikes that I own where I'm able confidently to be able to give some form of long-term perspective on a bike, which is probably what most people who are looking to acquire a given motorcycle, that's what most people will look for. Because after a few months you're able to A, talk about the idiosyncrasies that every bike has, and B, speak with a little bit more confidence about durability and reliability and the availability of aftermarket spares and parts and accessories, of which there are plenty, it's fair to say. So yeah, with this bike, in addition to the things I've already mentioned. I've got the Royal Enfield handguards on here to complement the Tech exhaust system. I've got the DNA Stage 2 air filtering. What else have I got? Engage spray. Oh aye, I've got the hey, couldn't think about them. I've got my feet on them. I've got the Tech bike parts, CNC aluminium replacement gear and brake levers, which to be fair are more of a stylistic exercise than a utilitarian one, if you will. So yeah, that's what I've done with the bike. Not had any issues really whatsoever in fitting any of that apparel. So yes, if you choose to have one of these and you want to, shall we say, stamp upon it your own identity, give it a degree of customization, you are well placed to be able to do that. There's plenty of aftermarket stuff available. Is 47 brake horsepower enough? You might be asking, on a bike that weighs 241 kilogram, or is it 243 kilogram? I think it's a shotgun that's 241. This is 243. Yeah, it's enough. This engine will take this bike to over 100 miles an hour and cruise all day long in effortless comfort at 70-80. And a lovely comfortable riding position. Oh, and I should mention also I've got fitted the Tech bike parts excuse me, I fitted the Tech bike parts bar raisers, which just make the riding position more comfortable for me. Aye, so I say absolutely yes. 47 brake horsepower is more than enough with this bike at this weight to be able to do most of what you're ever really going to want to do. You can nip down the shops on this bike. You can scratch the pegs of a weekend. You can go down your local cafe. You can go touring. You can do just about anything you want to do with this bike. I wouldn't say you can off-road in any meaningful way on it, but then be more than capable of dealing with you know, the odd gravel track or a bit of compacted grass, you know, the sort of thing. The stock tyres on these, the Seats, absolutely fine. I don't know why some people turn the nose up at these. I've ridden this bike in the pouring rain, in the high heat of summer, on slimy roads, frosty roads, and you know, for all the world I can't say that they're any different really to what I've experienced with much more well-known so-called mainstream brands. Your Dunlops, your Michelins, your Metzlers, your Bridgestones of this world. Every bit as good, I would say. Quite a graceful, lazy turn in on the bends, these bikes, quite a long wheelbase. but that is exactly what you would expect from a bike like this, and it doesn't detract from the handling experience one little bit. I just find I have to adapt slightly. I mean, this has got a 21-inch front wheel, 17-inch rear wheel. My Moto Guzzi V7 is two 18-inch wheels, and the classic 350 likewise two 18-inch wheels. So there is a little bit of a noticeable difference between this and the other two bikes on the turning, but not much. And yeah, it's a very languid, graceful rather than sharp and snappy experience on the bends, but nonetheless very sure-footed indeed. Running costs, I'm getting about 70 to the gallon on this, even with spirited riding. You can just about scratch out 200 miles from a tank. But I always tend to fill up about the 150 mark. It's relatively cheap to insure. All three of my bikes are on a multi-bike policy with Bennett's. But I think if you sort of had my profile and riding experience and what have you, age, you should be able to get this, I would have thought, for certainly less than £200, maybe even less than you know, maybe less than 100. Obviously you need to shop around. But I'd be guessing, you know, if this was the only bike and I had it insured on an individual policy, if I was paying anywhere between sort of 120 and 160 quid, something like that, I'd be very happy. That's the sort of ballpark it's in. The front suspension, well, I have to say these Showa upside down forks are excellent, absolutely sublime. They've got a real high-end feel to them, and not something that you would expect to find on bikes that cost between £6,500 and £7,300 UK. You would expect to find that sort of premium suspension on a much more expensive motorcycle. So full marks to Royal Enfield there. I don't know if that was a collaborative endeavour with Showa or just something that they chose to do. But it's a marked improvement on that which has gone before, except the same cannot be said for the twin shocks at the back, which even though I've now adjusted them and improved the rear, shall we say, absorption credentials, there are still occasions when particularly poor road surfaces, and those sadly proliferate these days, don't they, can give a bit of a wake-up call to your spine. So I'm not sure whether I'm going to sort of go down the route of replacing these. They're not a showstopper, don't get me wrong. They're not something that you think, bloody hell, I couldn't do another mile on that bike with that suspension. It's not that level of discomfort, but it's not premium. The springs are not graduated springs. On the Moto Guzzi, you can tell that the coils are tighter together at the top and bottom of the spring. It's a more premium feeling rear suspension setup than this bike. So yeah, aftermarket shock absorbers, YSS, dunno, Hagons. I believe you can contact Hagon and give them your sort of height and weight and riding style, and they'll put together a set of shock absorbers for you. Hey, if anybody that works for Hagon is watching, can you do me a deal? I'll be more than happy to cover it on the channel if you would. Aye. So, all in all, it's been a very, very positive experience. Indeed. No horror stories whatsoever. Right, it's just going to be a case of share last sausage roll now, and I'll speak to you in a bit. Everybody's out today, not surprisingly. I just pulled up in Pateley Bridge there to grab a sausage roll and just met up with a subscriber of mine who's going to tag along. It's Tony, and met Tony for the first time just 2 or 3 weeks back up at Ribblehead Viaduct on his classic 350, and he's loving it to bits. So he said, can I tag along with you? And of course I'm always happy to have company on a ride. Wasn't really intending to come out today, but then when I saw the weather clearing I thought, yeah, why not? And just looking at the mileage, I don't know why I got it into my head. Hey! That I'd done less than 1,000 miles. But I've actually done 1,400 miles. So I don't know where I dreamed that up from. But it just sort of further reinforces the point that I think if this bike were going to chuck me any surprises from left field, it would have done it by now. And I can't think of any little quirks really, annoying or otherwise. I mean, side stand's a little bit difficult to locate with your heel, but that's been made a little bit more awkward by the fitting of these tech exhausts, to make it a little bit more difficult to locate the side stand, but no big deal. The screen well, if you're around about my height, it's a bit academic, the screen. And of course the thing that annoyed me about this screen in winter was, if I was out filming, the screen got very dirty very quickly and completely ruined the forward view. So you might recall I just got a cheap universal fit fly screen. But now that spring is here, shouldn't have any issues with visibility. Like I say, I hope it's not spoiling your view up front. So, just having a little run here. I'm probably going to go out and feed me fat face with sausage roll up at Scar House, which Tony's not familiar with. And then over the tops down into Leighton Reservoir and make a decision there whether or not it's a ride back via Kettlewell or a ride back through Ripon. We shall see. Yeah, so cracking back the Super Meteor. Like I say, currently represents the apotheosis of Royal Enfield's latter-day endeavours, but I'm sure there'll be more coming from them. Whether the fabled classic 650 brakes cover remains to be seen. It's still not happened, or the scrambler for that matter, but we'll see. I should imagine, if there's any truth to those rumours, it's going to be the this 650 parallel twin engine which is employed, unless of course they bring out a Scram 450, which would have a certain amount of logic to it, wouldn't it? I had the Scram 411, the Himalayan Scram 411, so a new water-cooled Himalayan Scram 450 might well be in the offing, and may well raise its head before those other two putative bikes. But what a quality feel to these Royal Enfields now. You know, you might say, if you're a big Triumph fanboy or fangirl, you might with some justification say that the fit and finish there is a little bit more premium. But really, a little be the operative word. The build quality on this here Super Meteor is every bit as good as my Motor Guzzi V7, for example, which is a much more expensive bike than this. And you wouldn't climb aboard one of these bikes and in any way be able to sort of say, well, they've saved a bit of money here or they've saved a bit of money there. Not got that feel about it at all. The extensive use of metal for the mudguards and the side panels, which on many other bikes of course would be plastic, just adds to the quality and gravitas of this bike, and of course does contribute towards its 243 kilograms of weight. But it gives it a really quality planted feel, and I'm more than happy to trade that feel for any modest reduction in performance, be it speed or fuel economy. So wending our way through the beautiful Nid Valley once again. Hope my thoughts and reflections on the Super Meteor 650 were of some interest to you. It really is a great bike, and just don't fall into the trap of thinking cruiser, limited use, limited practicality, niche styling. Forget all of that. It's just a cracking, good, well built, reliable, comfortable, real world powerful, economical, and very engaging and rewarding bike to ride. And starting at round about the £6.5 mark for the Astral models, an absolute bloody bargain. Hey, right, that's it for today. If you have enjoyed what you see, please, I implore you to click a like and to subscribe, please. 70% of my viewers, including return viewers, don't subscribe, and it's the number of subscriptions really which is the benchmark for the success of the channel. And it doesn't cost you anything, it really doesn't cost a penny to subscribe, it's dead easy, and it doesn't inconvenience you in any way, shape or form. So please subscribe, and if you think you're already subscribed, please from time to time check that you are still subscribed, because for whatever reason from time to time subscriptions tend to drop off, no idea why. But yeah, so until the next time, and in the meantime, ride safe, be kind, and I'll catch you soon. I'll see you.